We've all felt pressure, right? But what happens when that pressure just becomes too much? Today, we're diving into that exact moment when people snap, when the weight of everything forces a change that can't be undone.
It's a fascinating and kind of terrifying question to think about. Where is that invisible line? You know, that point of no return when grief or injustice or just pure cruelty shoves someone right over the edge. So we're going to look at 3 incredible and totally true stories of people who were pushed way past that line. We've got a grieving wife, a betrayed pirate, and a hunted rebel. Their stories are intense, they're complicated, and they tell us something really profound about the human spirit under the most extreme pressure. Okay, first up, let's talk about Maria Oktyabskaya. This is a story about how a woman's deep, profound love for her husband was forged into an absolutely unstoppable weapon of war. So for 14 years, Maria and her husband Ilya, they built this life together. She was a proud military wife, even trained as an army nurse. But then, 1941, World War II just tears them apart. Ilya gets sent to the front, and Maria is evacuated all the way to Siberia. For 2 agonizing years, she just waits for a letter that never comes. And then, in 1943, she gets the news. Ilya had been killed 2 years earlier, right at the start of the war. And this news, it didn't just break her heart. It completely shattered something deep inside her. All that hope she'd been clinging to for 2 whole years just curdled. It turned into pure, white-hot rage. The enemy had taken everything from her, and she decided, right then and there, she was going to make them pay.
And this wasn't just some emotional outburst. No, this was a cold, calculated plan born out of her grief. She sold every single thing she owned, donated all the money to build a T-34 tank, and then she wrote a personal letter directly to Stalin. Her demand was simple. I'm going to be the one to drive it. And incredibly, he said yes.
She named that tank Fighting Girlfriend, and she even painted the words on the turret herself. For Maria, this wasn't just war. This was a deeply personal mission of vengeance. It was a tribute to the love that had been stolen from her.
Now you can imagine, her all-male crew, they thought she was a joke, a publicity stunt. But Maria proved them wrong, and she did it fast. In her very first battle, she expertly wiped out enemy positions. When her tank's treads got damaged, she ignored orders, jumped out into a hail of gunfire, and fixed them herself. She did this 2 more times, earning the total respect of her crew and a promotion. But on that 3rd repair, her luck ran out. She was hit by shell fragments and died 2 months later. She was posthumously named a hero of the Soviet Union.
Maria's story is one of righteous vengeance, for sure. But what happens when that snap leads to something, well, something much, much darker? Let's turn to the story of Francois Lalonnais, a man whose breaking point unleashed a cruelty so legendary it became infamous throughout the Caribbean.
His life started out incredibly hard. Born into poverty in France, he was sold as an indentured servant. After finally getting his freedom, he was a total outcast, until he found a home with a crew of buccaneers. And for the first time in his life, he had a family, a place where he actually belonged. And then, just like with Maria, it was all violently ripped away. After a shipwreck, his crew, the only people who had ever shown him any kindness, were ambushed and slaughtered by Spanish soldiers. Francois only survived by covering himself in his friends' blood and hiding among their dead bodies. Lying there, among the bodies of his only family, that was his breaking point. Something inside of him just snapped. He made a vow to repay the world's cruelty with an even greater cruelty of his own, aimed squarely at the Spanish. And he was a man of his word. Not long after, he captured a Spanish ship that was sent to hunt him down. He lined up the 90 soldiers on deck and, with his own sword, he personally beheaded 89 of them, one by one. He left a single survivor to take a message back to the governor. I shall never henceforth give quarter to any Spaniard whatsoever. This wasn't just revenge. This was a performance of pure hatred, designed to make his name a synonym for terror.
Our last story today is the most complex one. It's about a young man who wasn't pushed by one single dramatic event, but by this relentless, grinding series of injustices that totally blurred the line between hero and villain. This is the story of Henry Barry Lowry. So Henry was a member of the Lumbee tribe in North Carolina. During the Civil War, his people faced forced labor, false accusations. It just kept escalating. When an official threatened his family, Henry killed him. When the Confederate Home Guard murdered his cousins, Henry killed one of them in return. But the final snap, the thing that broke him, came when he had to hide and watch as that same Home Guard executed his father and his brother right on their own family farm.
After that, Henry basically declared war. He and his gang started targeting these wealthy plantations, stealing food and supplies and sharing them with the poor, both black and white. And this created two completely different legends. To the poor and oppressed, he was a Robin Hood, a symbol of justice. But to the rich elite, he was just a terrifying, murderous outlaw.
He became so feared that the authorities put a massive bounty on his head, $12,000. That's about $300,000 today. I mean, think about that, a life-changing amount of money. But the loyalty he commanded, the justice he represented, it was stronger than greed. That bounty wasn't just a measure of how feared he was by the rich, it was a measure of how loved he was by the poor.
The authorities got so desperate that they stooped to a new low. They kidnapped the wives of the Lowry gang. Henry's response was swift, and it was terrifying. He sent a note with an ultimatum that sent a chill through the entire county. And you know what? The women were released.
After years of leading this rebellion, the pressure was mounting. The Lowry gang pulled off one last massive heist, stealing around $22,000. And then Henry Berry Lowry just vanished.
His disappearance became the stuff of legend. Did he escape out west? Did he die in an accident? Nobody knows for sure. All we do know is his wife never remarried, and that enormous, life-changing bounty, it was never, ever claimed. So that leaves us with the big question that ties all three of these stories together. You have a wife avenging her husband, a pirate repaying cruelty with more cruelty, and a rebel fighting injustice with violence. When a person is pushed past their breaking point, what do you call their actions? Is it justice, or is it just revenge?